Hello, my name is Jared Wilson and welcome to my EDL 856 Module 7 presentation. To begin the presentation, an overview of the assignment was to break down the internal and external publics in a flowchart so that we can identify the forms of communication, what that communication looks like, how it's handled, how it's done, and really look at the relationship among two-way communication between different parties and stakeholders within a school and the community. The process for this assignment was to first research, pull out details, pull out information that we can use to apply the breakdown of the different communication avenues that we take for both internal and external publics. From there, it was to use a website of our choice to create some type of a flowchart visual diagram. I chose to use Creatively or Creately. I really like the program. It's really simple to use. One of the biggest flaws that I have found thus far is that when I'm going to record on top of my flowchart, it looks like there's tons of mistakes. For example, you'll see where it says forms of communication right there, and that SO on the forms and the of tend to get blurred. Unless I independently click on each one, it doesn't clear up. So I'm not sure if it's something I'm doing, technological error, but that's something that using this program I disliked. But overall, as far as making this, I've used this program before. I can print these flowcharts out. I really do like this program, again with that drawback of not being able to quite as accurately portray my work as I would like to. So to begin starting to break down the assignment, I first want to highlight my resources used. These are my references for Module 7. And then as we come down here, we break down the different publics as internal and external. Internal referring to the communication in which takes place among participants within the organization. So looking at the internal, it breaks down here at the second level for formal communication. So it is shared or passes through predefined channels. So it's checked before it goes out, multiple parties see it, things like that. There's a bit of informal, but primarily it's all formal communication that's being sent back and forth. The different types of communication that we see meetings, we see emails, phone calls, our school website, automated dialers, phone calls, as well as social media. For internal, it breaks down further to highlight that many of the internals that we communicate with are administration, staff, students, and parents. Breaking down administration, we have our superintendent, the athletic director, our principal, assistant principal, our school board, and our team leads. A majority of the form of communication between all these parties are meetings. I know administration meets every Wednesday. And then from there, I know there's countless emails going back and forth as well as phone calls, but those are the primary forms of communication that take place among the administration level. From there, it goes on to the staff level. And for the staff level, you have teachers, you have classified, you have supported staff, and substitute teachers. With COVID, there are so many substitute teachers being in and out that I really thought that they deserved a place in our communication table because they are constantly having to change direction, change classrooms, change what location they're working at, and so they play a huge role in our school and what we need to do, and they are a part of our staff and a part of our communication process. More of these pertain more for email, less for the phone call, less for the school website, less for the automated dialers, but they definitely rely on all of them, primarily being the email and meetings. We have staff meetings weekly. We also have emails back and forth between all administration, staff as well. The next one I'd like to highlight down is the students and parents. And from there, I'd like to highlight that we have ELL students, off-campus students, and on-campus students. This highlights the fact that we have got to communicate effectively between diverse parties of students, groups of students. We have students that are only on campus half days, campus full days, and off campus totally. So it is critical that we are able to communicate with diverse students using different forms of communication, whether it be email, whether it be phone calls, whether it's the automated dialers we're sending home, whether it's the school websites that we're putting out in the Google Classrooms that we put out so that our students can communicate with us. We can communicate with them as well to see their needs, see how we can adjust. Primarily looking at all three, there's quite a bit of two-way communication that needs to happen. Primarily, I see more of the two-way communication happening at the staff and student and parent section, because you are constantly have to communicate with parents, let them know what's going on. Parents have to let teachers know what's going on, and that communication piece has to happen on a more daily basis so that you can communicate all the things that need to take place throughout the day, throughout the learning school year. At the administration piece, communication among administration is way more two-way. So for example, a communication between your superintendent and your principals are very two-way, much more so than the communication between the administration and the staff. And I do believe that not just at my school, but many of the schools I've worked with, this link between the administration and the staff is a critical thing that schools can struggle with and that have to work with on a consistent basis. Breaking down and going over to my external side, I'd like to highlight that again, this is formal communication. This is all going to go through channels. This is going to be proofread. This is going to be going through multiple parties to make sure that's exactly what's one being said, what it needs to say, and make sure it has all the critical information needed. Some of those external parties or publics, we have the CDE, we have our financial contributors, we have our community, and we have our surrounding colleges. I highlighted this, our CDE, because being that we are a public charter school, there are very specific regulations and things we have to do a little bit differently for testing, and so we are in constant communication with the CDE to make sure we are in compliance, as well as making sure we have all the materials we have or that we need to ensure that our students have the best opportunities for test taking and things of such. One area I think that we struggle with two-way communication with testing in the CDE is that a lot of it is looking up and finding information, not necessarily clear, just communication between two parties. Financial contributors. Being that we're a public charter school, we really rely on certain tax monies, certain tax breaks. We're looking at PTO funds and things to help classrooms, and these two parties do a huge contribution to our finances as far as helping money to the classroom, helping money to where we have spending for field trips and things like that to help enrich the education that we can give our kiddos. And then again, I'd like to highlight alumni as well for that financial contributors. We have a lot of wealthy families that come through that like to give back to the school. They give back to the current students, and it helps us out a great deal. We tend to communicate to these parties through email, newsletters, phone calls, school websites, meetings, social media. I know for specific alumni and things like that, they check the newsletters, the school websites, and it's a normal basis, versus different financial contributors that we, make personal phone calls or maybe personal visits to make sure that they understand their importance and how much they help our school. Moving on to the surrounding colleges, I've highlighted Pueblo Community College and Colorado State University at Pueblo. Those two I highlighted because they are the surrounding colleges, they are the closest colleges, and we send students to their campus on a daily basis in order to make sure we have two-way communication, to make sure that we have our students taking the correct courses, making sure everything is accurate, making sure our students are in attendance. We really work together like they are another part of campus because we have so many students that are going between our school and their school as well. To break down the evaluate and extend and prove, there are different ways to communicate among both internal and external publics. Internal communication focuses on that communication among the members of an organization. These tend to be a little bit more informal. Communications, meetings, emails, phone calls, things like that, even radio communication, as to where the external is way more formal, being sent out to those public that you might not, deal with every single day, but control a huge aspect of how a school or business is portrayed by the public. Something I really pulled away from this was a highlight from one of the YouTube videos where there were important stakeholders not being noticed or being overlooked, and that is being the students. And that's something that I believe SCA has really highlighted, was trying to get all students' input back to the school so that there was more open two-way communication avenues, so that there was as much input as we were giving the students. They were able to turn around and give that back to us so that we could work together to create the best learning environment. It was critical for me as a learner for this module to identify that internal and external communication have to work together. So when you're sharing this message externally, your internal components, your staff, they are mirroring what you are sharing with the public. They are on the same page. They are sharing it with the public. The communication, everything is accurate. It is clear. Everyone's on the same page and it's being shared. And as well as being shared, it's being supported by your internal components. So if your company is saying that you're priding yourselves on having integrity, doing the right thing, and finding all of the opportunities for your students, that's the things that your staff is doing, so that you are all working together towards that same goal, and you are communicating that goal to your external components. Overall, the two-way communication is something that we need to work on at SCA. I feel like SCA does a great job of providing information to both internal and external publics. Where we struggle is really taking that information in, taking back that that guidance, that critique from both internal and external publics, and applying it to what we do as a school, what we do as a leadership program, and how we can do that. Strengths in all groups. I think that our staff does a great job of communicating both with administration and with students. We are constantly finding programs like Remind, Class Dojo, things like that, so that we are in constant communication with our students and our parents. We are also in constant communication with our administration, identifying the obstacles and the expectations that are set before us. One weakness about the groups and the publics, I'm going to have to say, was definitely that section between administration and staff. That sometimes there's some goals and some really high level goals that are set from administration, and the support and the things to allow some of the staff and the students to meet those goals is lost in translation. I believe that's something that can be worked on, something that can be helped. Other than that, with the flow chart, beyond just the errors, like I said previously, with not being able to clearly show all of the work and show where it looks like it's difficult to read. Other than that, I felt like I did a great job. There's some things I could clean up as far as where my lines are going, just so it's not quite as confusing. But overall, I thought I did a great job with this presentation. This flow chart, it definitely helped me as I was learning this new information and processing this new information. It helped me have a better understanding of why we do what we do, how we communicate, and how specifically we can be finding different technology and different avenues to meet the needs of all stakeholders and to allow a better form of communication between stakeholders as far as us giving information and us receiving information. Thank you for watching my video. Have a great day.